Now, Washington is again raising the alarm and Abuja is pushing back. A new report from the US Congress is sounding one of its strongest warnings yet on Nigeria, describing it as one of the most dangerous places in the world to be a Christian and urging sweeping measures, including sanctions and visa bans. The report, backed by key congressional committees and initiated under Donald Trump, goes further, calling for tougher policing, legal reforms, disruption of terror, financing, and even pressure on armed groups through economic levers. But the Tinubu administration is rejecting that narrative outright, insisting there is no state policy of religious persecution and warning against what it sees as a mischaracterization of a complex security crisis. So are we back again to competing narratives of truth? Well, tonight we sit down with a political figure whose career journey has gone from 2 decades of legislative influence in the corridors of the National Assembly to the halls of power in Washington. In addition to being on the national and global stage, Honorable Beni was at that prestigious national prayer breakfast in Washington, where President Trump publicly acknowledged Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu. But back home in Plateau State, the realities are far more urgent. Rising insecurity, allegations of Christian genocide, and communities in search of stability. And Honorable Beni, Chief Executive of the Solomon and Mary Foundation, joins me now in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you very much, Charles, for having
me. And I
me.
know you've been traveling a lot, so we're glad that you were able to come over and join us tonight.
Thank you.
Now, the US Congress says Nigeria is one of the most dangerous places to be a Christian, yet the federal government insists there is no targeted religious persecution. Where do you stand between those two sharply conflicting narratives?
First, I want to thank you very much and to say Nigerians' problems of insecurity have dated back for many decades. For 2 decades now, we've been fighting the issue of insecurity. Hitherto, it started actually as a targeted attack on communities that were largely Christian, but it has expanded to almost all the communities in northern Nigeria, with some of them even suffering more, they inflicted even just as badly as the Christian community. So as I speak, both Christian and Muslim communities in northern Nigeria, the Middle Belt, and other parts are going through very, very serious and a precarious situation. Having said that, I think our focus should be more on solutions, kinetic and non-kinetic. And I must say that the ongoing reforms and the posture of the government shows that there is sincerity of purpose and there is the political will to fight this issue headlong of insecurity. And you can see also proposals for state policing. I think state policing, which we have been advocating for a very long time. We brought up the issues in various constitutional amendments in the 7th, 8th, and 9th Assembly. For some reasons, this hasn't passed, but I'm pretty sure that hopefully the 10th Assembly will ensure that in the constitutional amendments we get state policing.
Well, let's take this systematically, because there are 2 issues here. There's one about what is going on inside Nigeria, the political sort of optics of what is going on here. There are 3 things, in fact. There is the way the people in those areas where there is insecurity, how they feel about what the government is doing. And then there is the international perception. Let's start with the international one, because having just returned from Washington yourself, did you get a sense that Nigeria's image is deteriorating internationally on issues of insecurity and human rights?
On issues of insecurity, there's a lot of concerns from all the countries. I was privileged to attend the 74th National Prayer Breakfast. I've attended several prayer breakfasts under Obama, President Obama, under President Bush, and we did not have those sorts of concerns. But attending this National Prayer Breakfast, most of the delegates, there were delegates from 110 countries, and there were many side meetings, and there were lots of concerns. Once you say you're Nigerian, the first thing they'll say, it's unfortunate, we're really concerned about what's going on in your country. We are praying for you. That's what you hear everybody say. And how can we help? So there is a willingness of the international community to help. And I saw people come up to me randomly from Poland, from Hungary, from, yes, we were in a delegation, and they came up and they said, let us know how we can help you. I spoke more of, the issue of the internally displaced persons. And my governor and a lot of people were concerned about that across Nigeria. And they did say that some governments said they would be willing to help Nigeria with the millions of internally displaced persons that have suffered as a result of conflict. However, seeing our image being in sort of a precarious situation tells us that we need to do more as a nation. We need to have a plan on ground on resolving issues of insecurity. Nigeria, no doubt, is a giant in Africa. We were the leading giant, and I believe we still are. But there's a little dent on our image when it comes to that issue of insecurity. I was a member of the ECOWAS Parliament when I was in Parliament, and I was also a member of the AU Parliament, which sits in Johannesburg, South African Parliament. And when I remember one time, the members of the ECOWAS Parliament, they said the Nigerian Parliament very often observes 1 minute silence motion. There's motions brought to observe a 1 minute silence, or prayers brought to observe one. Normally when there's a motion brought, when there's killings in communities, there's always a 1 minute silence prayer. And if you look at the number of those motions, it's been on the high side compared to other countries in West Africa. So we have had more than our own fair share. And honestly, I feel sorry for President Tinubu because he is in the middle of it. He met a very precarious situation, but I believe that he's putting the right steps in place.
Right. Well, is that getting across to the world? Because, the US, this is the second time now. Obviously, the first time we heard Donald Trump talking about all this. He set up a congressional panel. That panel, those committees have submitted reports, and they're urging the US to move ahead with sanctions, visa restrictions, and all of that. What would that mean for Nigeria's global diplomatic standing if those things go ahead? Those pressure points are pricked by this recommendation from the Congress?
Well, first of all, I want to say, the United States is a country that is very open and it's very flexible. Unfortunately, because of the gap we've had in our diplomatic relationship, particularly with the absence of an ambassador, that would have helped to mitigate all these concerns.
Yeah, but it hasn't. So what happens now?
So what I want to say is, going forward, there is an ambassador designate.
Right.
And one of the things that really impressed me when I was in Washington was when Donald Trump mentioned only 3 countries, Nigeria being the third. There were 110 countries, and world leaders were represented, religious leaders. But he mentioned El Salvador. The president of El Salvador was sitting right next to him, and the president of the DRC Congo. And he did say in his speech that El Salvador was an example of how a country can be transformed. And he was very happy that the United States played a key role. He also alluded to the fact that most of the criminals that had been committing crimes in America hitherto were from El Salvador. But he decided to get to the bottom of it and to work with the government of El Salvador. And they formed a corporation, and that corporation in 2 years has made El Salvador the safest country in Latin America.
Right. So
the same thing with DRC. Right. And then he mentioned Nigeria,
the
first
DRC
lady.
Isn't the safest country in the world,
No, he said he had developed ties and cooperation, and peace was returning. So he mentioned Nigeria, and he did say the First Lady was a very respectable lady, and he did commend the efforts being made and the cooperation. So I'm sure the close cooperation of the Nigerian government and the U.S. government will make our insecurity issues a thing
Right.
of
Well,
the
let me
past.
ask you this: based on that prayer, it was a very high-profile event, as you mentioned. Beyond the symbolism, what concrete value does that engagement bring to Nigerians facing insecurity in places like your state, Plateau, and in where you come from?
Well, I think, like I said earlier, Charles, beyond that, the United States, I'm not a government official, and I cannot speak with for the government, but the United States did show willingness from the side meetings we had to cooperate more for closer military cooperation, and also to help in the rehabilitation of conflict zones everywhere in Nigeria, and also to play whatever role that is necessary in bringing peace and a violent-free country. Because as you know, the Constitution of Nigeria does say that the security and lives of its citizens shall be the primary responsibility of government.
Well, it doesn't really matter what it says, does it? Because, what we're seeing on the ground is something completely different. Do you believe that external pressure, you're from Plateau State, that's a state that has been afflicted hugely by insecurity. Do you believe that external pressure from Washington is necessary to force real reforms in Nigeria's security architecture?
I believe the Nigerians,
bearing in mind what your people, never mind the politics, are going through.
I believe that Nigerians themselves should be able to design a system where they themselves will rely less on external pressure and more on building our own capacity to resolve our issues. We do have a Nigerian military, and we do have manpower. So I'm very happy that the government is making plans, and is also, I see the advertisements going on for an increase in our manpower, because we do have insufficient manpower. But a collaboration is a good thing, and I see that there's a collaboration between the United States and Nigeria.
Right. You recently joined the APC, is that right?
That is correct.
At a time when many Nigerians are expressing frustration with the ruling party, why align with the establishment? That's up to you, obviously, but why align with the establishment now? Was your move driven by ideology, which is virtually non-existent, opportunity, political survival, or proximity to power?
That's a very interesting question. Charles, I think for politicians, for any politician to have an enduring legacy, it's good to look at history and to look at what's transpired before, hitherto. In other words, let's look at where we've been, where we are now, and where we intend to go. Yes, my father was the founding father of PDP and of democracy. My dad led the initial, he led the initial move on the fight against the military to regain power.
Indeed.
And he risked his life in the process of doing that. And I thought that was admirable. So during the course of that period, my father never for once left his ideology. And the ideology was to give the masses, the ordinary man on the street, a better life. Because politics and democracy is about giving people the power to choose their representatives and their elected officials so that they can improve the quality of their lives. Now, I saw that working in the 16 years of the PDP, when PDP was in power. Then gradually there was a deviation from that ideology. And that deviation, Nigerians, the leaders became more egotistical rather than lead with integrity. And rather than lead with empathy for the people, it became more about self. The leaders became a bit boastful, and rather than being people-centered, it became more self-centered. And that led, unfortunately, to the massive defeat of the PDP. Now, the APC has been in power for some time. And the main reason why I decided to join...
They've been in power for at least 13 years. Well,
yes, for at least
almost,
yes.
not quite, but
almost
I mean,
13 years.
They've been there now since 2015, so it's about 11 years now.
Right. I joined because I believe that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu shares a very similar vision to my father, having been a progressive himself. Remember when they were disciples of Abiola, and when Chief MKO Abiola was the presidential candidate of the SDP, a party to which they belonged, a grassroots party. After Abiola was declared the winner of the elections, the military, of course, he had to go into exile. When he went into exile, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu also went into exile, and a few of them, Nadeko, that was when they started this movement. Now my dad was part and parcel of that Nadeko movement. I remember one time going with my dad to England on one of the visits. I believe the late Balata Kaya was on that trip with my father, Chief Ayot Badokun from the Southwest, a political leader, and a lot of my dad's progressive associates were with him. And they went to see MKO to tell him to come back and retrieve his mandate. They told him that as a presidential candidate and one who had won the elections legitimately, he should come and defend that mandate, even if it meant risking his life. And Chief MKO Abiola did that, unfortunately, at the expense of risking his life. And we know what the military did. They killed him. So he was a great defender of democracy. And my father likewise risked his life when he went to see Abacha and delivered the letter. When the G18, none of them could deliver that letter, my dad said, I will do it. We should defend this democracy even if it means with our blood.
So do you reckon you're defending democracy now by joining the APC? I mean, I'm curious to know what your definition of,
what I'm saying is,
that is.
I'm getting to that point.
Right, well, we have to move because we're running out of time.
So what I'm saying is the definition is when you have a vision of uniting the people, to give them power. Power belongs to the people. I want to identify with anywhere that allows power to belong to the people. And is it your sense that that is what is happening in Nigeria? Or do you believe it's not a perfect situation, but the people are becoming more and more alienated from that power base in the center? Well, I believe that there are reforms going on, and that's why you see that the Electoral Act reforms have come into have been passed by the National Assembly and signed and assented to this February. So the electoral process now will give every Nigerian the opportunity to participate. But many Nigerians disagree with the content of that Electoral Act. They feel that a significant part of it may well undermine democracy in this country. I believe that direct primaries is the most, is the fairest form of a democracy, because every card-carrying member gets the right to choose. The problem is Nigerians sometimes do not choose good leaders. You need to have, that power to choose and vote is very critical. People vote sometimes based on sentiment. People vote on ethnicity. Yeah, but people are given a selection of leaders after they've come through the primaries of their parties. Yes. They don't go and pick independents that they can vote for. They're stuck with the people who are given to them by the political parties. Right, so that's what I'm saying. The direct primaries will give every card-carrying member, every registered member, an opportunity to elect the leader they so choose. Well, so it's going to boost internal democracy. Right, okay. Well, now that you're talking about politics, because we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left, let me get to something I know that is dear to your heart, because I know you've highlighted the issue of gender in Nigerian politics. Paint briefly a picture around that for us. Well, Nigerian women are the most marginalized groups among the electorate in Nigeria. In Africa, we have one of the lowest percentages of representation of Nigerian women. We have right now about 4 to 5%. When I was in Parliament, it was about 7%. You can see that we have only 4 senators out of 109 senators, and we have only about 15 women out of 360 members of the House of Representatives. And the pictures in the House of Assembly is even worse. Some states have no females at all. Now, women make up over half of the voting population, and women bring an addition to governance. And as you know, if you make up more than half of the voting population, obviously there should be representation of that group. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, it's very, very low. And so the special seats bill for women is coming up. And I'm hoping that the National Assembly will ensure that it is passed and the President assents to it.
Right. And we know that you are the chief executive of the Solomon and Mary La Foundation. Tell us a little bit about what it does. Is this one of the things that it is pushing?
Well, yes. Well, the foundation is a foundation established upholding the virtues and the legacy of the late Chief Solomon La and his wife, Mary La. And we are a peace-building foundation. We promote virtues of peace. And also we are a foundation that promotes democracy, the rule of law, and independence of the judiciary. So we also...
And you are a lawyer, of course.
Of course I'm a lawyer. And we also ensure that we also promote gender advocacy.
Right.
Because you cannot have a country without the involvement of women.
Indeed.
So
we're almost out of time. Plateau State, your state, remains a flashpoint for violence. After so many years, why do these cycles of killings persist? Are we dealing with farmer-herder clashes, religious violence, or a deeper failure of state authority? Or a combination of all of them?
Well, I think we're dealing with more of a combination, but more than ever, we see the state being targeted by certain elements. We don't know who those elements are, and we don't know why or for what reason, but certainly the government needs to do more in terms of getting to the root of the crisis. And we want to see perpetrators being brought to book because people are displaced, communities are annihilated, and nothing happens. So we do need to see more people being brought to book.
Okay. Honorable Beni La, I want to thank you very much indeed for taking the time to come and talk to us. She is the chief executive of the Solomon and Mary La Foundation, and she was a member of the House of Representatives for more than 2 decades. That's a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.